Hi!
Hi, guys.
Let's see, do I have my chat open? I do. Good afternoon, good evening to those of you who are not on the West Coast with us. I'm Sunshine.
And I'm Casey.
We're super excited. We have a lot of attendees today. Some of you already know Casey or myself. And some of you don't. So for those of you who don't, I'm Sunshine. I am the founder of Surrogacy Is. I am a 3-time gestational carrier. I'm actually, if you want to see, I'm very, very, very pregnant right now with my third and final surrogate baby girl who's going to be joining the world in April, the end of April. And she is going to join her little brother, who I delivered in February of 2019. So that's pretty cool. And we have a lot of information to cover today about what to expect in the screening process for surrogacy. So I'm going to wait for more people to join us before we go ahead and jump into that. And I'll let Casey introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what we do and what she does mostly. I think most of you have probably, if you haven't already spoken to Casey on the phone, you've probably gotten text messages and emails from her. And she's most likely going to be the person that you're talking to. Lucky you, because she's way cooler than I am. And I do have a couple of polls while we're waiting for people to join us that I will share with you now. Just curious about what brings most of you to surrogacy. I know we all kind of arrived to this strange world of surrogacy by all various ways of how we hear about it. And I'm also curious what stage of the pre-screening process you're in. I know a lot of ladies that have already kind of been working with us for a little while are halfway through the screening process, or maybe you're already done and you're at the matching stage, which is super exciting. And you just wanted to join us because you like us and you want to support us, and we appreciate it. But for those of you who are just starting, we're curious to know where you're at with that. So go ahead, Casey, and introduce yourself.
Hi, ladies. So excited to be doing this with you guys and going through the screening process. Some of you might know me, and for the ones that don't, I am the co-founder of Surrogacy Is. I'm so excited to be a part of this company because what we represent is amazing, and I can kind of get into that in a little bit. But a little bit about myself. I have a house full of hormones. We have 3 beautiful girls, my oldest 15, my middle child 12, and then our sweet little Trinity, who is almost 2. And so we were those crazy folks that decided we wanted another one later on in life. I did 2 surrogacy journeys, and the first surrogacy journey was 11 years ago, and I still to this day have an amazing relationship with the intended parents. We do holidays and birthdays and the whole shebang. Second journey, equally special, very different. I had, it was with an international couple, Moscow, Russia, which is crazy cool. Somewhere in a different part of the country, I was able to help another family, and he's 9, so very special experience. After my 2 amazing journeys, I realized that I had a passion for surrogacy, and I really, really wanted to put that to use. So I decided to work for the agency I was a surrogate for. It was the director of surrogacy intake for many years. And after realizing that I wanted to do more, Sunshine and I and Kyle collaborated, and Surrogacy Is was created. So we're very excited to be able to share what we do, what our purpose is, and I'll kind of get that started. I want to wait and see if who's all in, and before I take those next steps of going through these beautiful slides so you understand what this process is about.
I think we have a lot of latecomers today, which is okay. And we don't have to wait around for them because the rest of these ladies were on time. And so we don't want to waste your time waiting for late people. Anybody who gets here late, by the way, and even anyone who's here will be sent a replay of the webinar. So I know we're going to talk fast and cover a lot of information. Tell us to slow down in the comments if you need us to, or if you have questions that come up, feel free to share, ask anything in the comments. We're happy to take a pause from what we're talking about and clarify if anything's confusing. Also, tell us where you're joining us from. I know we have ladies all over the country and in various states. So if you're feeling friendly, go ahead and let us know where you're coming in from. We'd be happy to have you guys interact with each other too. Oh, someone's in San Diego. I'm in San Diego. Casey's in Orange County, California.
Woo woo!
We're both
Beautiful California weather.
Oh, Texas. Oh my gosh. Texas,
Yes.
so many of you. I can't stop thinking about you guys and what you're going through over there. It's nuts.
We have a lot of people with
you
power.
have power. If you're here,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Hopefully you're staying warm in that snow. That's for sure.
Yeah. Lots of Texas today.
That's awesome.
You
Great.
guys keep in touch with each other too. So if one of you loses power, you can run over to the other's place. Maybe, I don't know. Driving on icy roads, it's scary over there. Oh, and my water.
For some of you may know that we actually have a closed Facebook group. If you're not a part of our Facebook group, I really encourage you to join. Let me know if you'd like us to send you the link to that group. It's a closed group. We call it our safe zone. Surrogacy has a lot of amazing aspects. One of the aspects that's not so amazing is if you're in a group to learn about surrogacy, we call them sometimes the mean girl groups. If you ask a question that isn't in favor of what they think, they may call you out and not really treat our girls right. So we created Surrogacy as a Facebook group because we really wanted to be a safe zone for you ladies to be able to talk amongst each other, learn about what steps of the process you're in, share some of the insight, tips, and tools that you guys are doing to take those steps of your journey. So we have 60 plus women in the group, and it's a great group of ladies. If you're not in it, please let us know. We'd love to have you be a part of that group on Facebook. So
I am going to get the link to the group and share it with you guys right now because it looks like a couple of people are asking.
Please.
I'll have to dig that up. Okay, so I think we should go ahead and get started covering all the that we have to talk about.
Great.
Oh, I'm glad you love the Facebook group. I do too. I like talking in there and sharing my journey because I feel like my personal friends list gets tired of hearing about my surrogacy journey and updates and stuff, and I can share it in a group where there are people who know what I'm talking about and care about my experience, which is so unique. Surrogate pregnancy is very different than your own pregnancy. Which I don't know. Maybe our friends get tired of hearing about our own personal pregnancies on Facebook too. But I'll go ahead, Casey, go ahead and get started. I know she's going to open up with some information in the beginning, and I'm going to share that link with you guys in the comments.
All right, ladies. Thank you guys so much for being a part of today's webinar. So really what surrogacy is, I always want to start off with that and let you guys understand a little bit further of what we do. We're not an agency. We're so much more than that. Being with an agency, Sunshine as well, our desire was to get the word out to you guys so you guys understood exactly what surrogacy is, the entire process from the very beginning until the very end, to understand that you have support, not just from the agency, but really from Surrogacy Is in a whole different matter. And really, we're going to be that liaison, that person for you, so that that experience is a good one. Some have called us the doula of surrogacy, and that was an honor for them to say that, because really that's what it is we want to cheer you on. We want to make sure that the agency you're with is an agency that's going to take care of you. So that's where we come in, and we work with some really great agencies. We know that they are following the guidelines and making sure that they represent what surrogacy should be. And so if you qualify and you've done the necessary steps with us, that's when we will then introduce you to the agency. So just a kind of a broad scope, that's what we do, is we are going to represent you and make sure we understand what you're looking for in translating that into the right match with the agency. So that's the first step. Then we have the call with me. That's really my favorite part, to be quite honest. This is a chance that I have the opportunity to talk with you ladies. I always joke and say I want to send you my surrogacy story. My journey for my first surrogacy was so amazing that it speaks for itself, and my desire and wanting to share with you guys what this process means to me and why I want surrogacy to have this word of positiveness. And if there are women out there who want to carry and enjoy being pregnant, then they should have the tools to do that. So this call is my chance to go over and make sure that you qualify. And it's more than just qualify, not physically and mentally, but making sure that it's safe for you to do surrogacy. You have kids of your own. We want to make sure that your family is priority in this first and foremost. So we're going to go through the pre-screening process. I have some questions that I will talk with you about. I answer any questions that you have, but I really touch on a few things. So the call takes about, well, if there's not as many questions, it's like 30-40 minutes. But a lot of times I will find myself really digging deep, and any of the girls have extra questions, we go through all of those things as well. So it's usually about 45 minutes. And the call really will consist of a few things. I'm going to go through your prenatal history to make sure that you don't have any concerns such as gestational diabetes that was not controlled by diet, preeclampsia, IUGR. There's a lot of things that we want to make sure, because the agency is going to request your medical records and make sure that it's safe for you to do surrogacy. So that's the first and foremost. We're going to talk about the type of birth control you're on, because that's going to play a part in the timing. We have a discussion about your BMI, as much as nobody wants to talk about their weight, especially post-COVID. We're kind of in it still right now. That's going to play a deciding factor on agency and your ability to move forward and timing of everything. It doesn't disqualify you from moving forward if your BMI is a little higher. We can talk about that in a few minutes, but it does play a factor in us figuring out what agency is going to be the best fit for you. Mental health history, we'll talk about that and really go through and making sure that you're not on any type of medication currently, because it's important that you are medication free. That's kind of part of the IVF process. We want to make sure that you're in a great place mentally. You've got a good support system. We will talk about your insurance and what type of insurance you have. Is it surrogate friendly? Is it not? And I can explain a little bit further in that, what we look for in those moments. Making sure that you're financially stable, that's a huge one. And then the fun part, matching preferences. So what you're looking for in a match, whether that be with a traditional couple, a same-sex couple, single mom, single father, or maybe you're gonna want to adventure to an international couple. A lot of times the first question with the women is, will I be traveling outside of the country? And the answer is no. The intended parent's IVF doctor is, it could be anywhere in the United States. They may have their doctor in California. There are a lot of agencies in California, and a lot of times you'll have the IVF doctor be in California as well. So that may take your traveling to California for 2 appointments. The first one for medical screening, and then the second one for the embryo transfer. And a lot of times these other appointments you can then be seen by your regular doctor or an outside monitoring clinic for those other appointments. And then compensation. I feel like it's a taboo question. Sometimes the women don't want to talk about it or feel like they can't ask that question, and you can. You're helping a family, and honestly, it's a remarkable feeling. But it also, the other side of it was, having the compensation is okay to ask those questions and understand that process. The agencies we work with, I'm proud to say that they all have an amazing compensation package, and a lot of times their website might offer that they have a compensation a little bit lower. And because we have the relationships with the agencies and we understand and have reviewed your screening and understand that you're qualified, you're an amazing candidate, you've got good support, you have insurance, these are things that will then allow us to ask for higher compensation on your behalf, which is great, because who doesn't like a little extra for what you're doing? This is a huge thing. So during the screening, those are some topics we talk about. It seems like a lot. I promise that it'll be fun and you'll enjoy it. That's my favorite part, is the opportunity to be able to talk with you guys and get to know you and hear your stories and learn about what you're hoping for in this journey. So that will be the next step. And then after that, I'll pass it over to Sunshine.
Okay, so once 𝗂𝐶ie spends all this time on the phone getting to know you guys for the most part, finding out more about what you're looking for, a lot of the factors that help us decide what agency is going to be the best fit for you have to do mainly with your location, the state that you're in. Not every agency will work with every surrogate in every state. So some states are, well, I don't know if I want to get super into the surrogacy laws, but in different states, the laws are different depending on the types of intended parents that you're helping. So if you have a certain preference of intended parents you'd like to help, that the laws are more friendly to some than others. For instance, if it's a single parent or an unmarried couple, then there's certain people that you wouldn't be able to help if you live in, say, Kentucky, that you would if you live in California. So that's important. That's going to rule out a lot of things right away, your location. And then the agencies have different requirements as well. So they'll have, there's a general ASRM guideline. I don't know if 𝗂𝐶ie mentioned ASRM is that, I always forget what that acronym stands for. What is it? American Society for Reproductive Medicine. So these are the guidelines, and they have certain guidelines, and agencies then have even a narrower qualification sometimes, for instance, for BMI. So some doctors might work with a surrogate who has a BMI that's over 30, between 30 and 34. Well, most go only up to 32, but say if you're a BMI of 30, 31, there might be some agencies that are better able to find you a match because they work with IVF clinics who are open to a higher BMI, whereas others might not. And it's not that they're discriminating against you for that reason, they just don't have clinics that wouldn't be able to find you a match at that higher BMI. So those are things that are gonna help us determine too what types of agency are gonna be a good fit for you. And then the agencies have certain types of intended parents that they work with too. So a lot of agencies have really local, regional. They get the intended parents that they serve come from their local area. Say, for instance, we have one that's in Central California, an agency we really love. They work with a lot of local intended parents who really just want to work with surrogates who are in Central California. So if you're from Texas, we're not going to connect you with that agency, obviously. And if you are interested in helping international couple, for instance, or a same-sex couple, then there are certain agencies we work with that work and serve a lot of same-sex couples or a lot of international couples. So we'll lean towards them first when connecting you. And then also compensation and levels of support. So every agency and every surrogate, honestly, is different. And God, forgive me for being out of breath all the time. It's because I'm so pregnant. But I'm like, sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, the levels of support. So some people really want a lot of hand-holding. Maybe you really want somebody to check in on you all the time. You want somebody to come to doctor's appointments with you. You want somebody to hold your hand every step of the way, answer your text messages at 2 a.m., like what you need that level of support. And others might find that level of support to be a little bit invasive. Like for instance, myself, I really prefer to manage things really independently. So for me, I don't need a lot of support from the agency. But if you do, there's not really a right or a wrong way to feel about that. But we want to know what your preference is so that we can make sure that you're not disappointed if we connect you with an agency that is, not offering that hands-on support. And we also want to make sure you're not irritated if we connect you with an agency that really is going to be all up in your business throughout the whole process. So that's one of the things you consider. Also, some people are prioritizing wanting to get started right away. If you want to get started right away, you've done your research, you're ready to go, you don't want to go through your screening process and sit around and wait for the right match to come along. We have some agencies who have a backlog and long waiting list of intended parents that we know would be able to match you quickly. So if matching quickly is a priority for you, we take that into consideration when we decide which agency is going to be best for you. And we'll usually be able to present you 2 or 3 options. Sometimes there's just going to be one that's just such a perfect fit, and we'll tell you this agency is checking all of your boxes. Like, let's not waste your time having you talk to multiple people, and let's just let you go get started there. So those are the things that we consider when we talk about review your profile. Even if I don't ever talk to you and 𝗂𝐶ie talks to you, we're pretty much the same person. So I feel like I know all of you anyway, even if I haven't spoken to you, because we go through your profile, we talk about what you want, and we work together to decide what's going to be the best agency to send you to. And then we make that connection, and that's a really exciting step. And that is when the pre-screening really begins. So all of this is the stuff that Casey and I just kind of get to know, so that you're not spending time going into Google typing, what's the best agency for me? And then, you know, whichever agency had the highest ad spend on Google that day is the one that shows up in the top, and you click on that one and you apply, and then you find out they don't like me, or I don't qualify for them. You have to fill out all these applications with all these different agencies, and maybe you get discouraged and you think you're not a candidate, and really you are an amazing candidate, just not for that agency. So we like to kind of do all that legwork for you. Let me just look at this question real quick. If our BMI is a 32 and that's the cutoff, do you have to maintain? No. Obviously, when you become pregnant, you're going to gain weight. So if your BMI is a 32 and that's the cutoff, you're going to gain weight from there. You need to be below or at exactly a 32 when you go for your medical screening, but it's expected that you're going to gain weight from there. And the reason that your BMI needs to be at a certain level is because the medications that they give you to prepare you for the embryo transfer, they don't work at a certain higher BMI. So at a certain point, the medications are not as effective for achieving pregnancy. So that's the reason they said that there. But you're not on those medications throughout the whole pregnancy. So of course you can, that won't apply later on. Casey, is this you? Oh,
that one's you.
Okay, I'm out of breath. Well, okay. So once we decide on the agency, we're going to introduce you most likely by email to the contact person at the agency, and then they're going to set up a call with you. At this point, you've probably already spent an hour or more on the phone with Casey, and so this call might feel a little bit repetitive when you're talking to the agency's representative, but they want to get to know you too. Like they know what we say about you, but they want to get a feel for you too. So they'll talk to you, and they're usually going to tell you about their program, what kind of support they offer. We'll give you some guidance on the types of questions to ask them to make sure that they're the right agency for you. We have an email that we usually send after Casey does a screening. So it tells you some questions to ask that you maybe wouldn't know, because you're like, I don't know what questions to ask. I have so many questions, I can't even think of a single one. So we'll give you that guidance. And then once you talk to the agency, they've answered your questions, you feel like this is the right agency and they're a good fit for you, then you start a little bit of paperwork. The agency is going to give you some consent forms, and you need to get those back to the agency quickly. This is probably one of the things that slows people down the most, is dragging their feet on completing their consent forms. But the consent forms that you fill out will allow the agency to collect your medical records. And that's kind of the longest, most tedious part of the screening process, is gathering those records. And then once the records are gathered, then they have to review them. And I don't know how many of you have seen your pregnancy and delivery records, but they're usually like 100 pages. And so they have to be, and they're like usually sent by fax. And so somebody has to comb through and look and make sure that pregnancy is safe for you. So it takes a long time to get through that process. So the faster you get those consent forms into the agency, the sooner they can start that process. There'll be consent forms to do your criminal background check. They'll ask for your personal identification. So like your driver's license, maybe your spouse or partner's driver's license, because they'll be doing criminal background check on them too, and things like that. So the quicker you can get your consent forms done, the better. And then you get to build your profile. So we've already talked a lot about you. We've already kind of built a little bit of a skeleton of a profile for you. But when you get to the agency, this is when you're going to fill out like your Match.com for surrogacy profile, basically. They want to know everything about you. They want to know, what are your favorite foods? What's your favorite flower? Like, they want to know all of these details about you because they want to get an idea of your personality. So they know that when they're connecting you with intended parents, that they're going to be a good match. So you want to just kind of be as thorough as possible and be honest and let your personality shine in that profile. And it's so funny. I think when I filled out my profile and when I looked at my first match for my first intended parents, one of the things that really drew me to them was how much they loved their dogs, because I am obsessed with my dogs and I'm a huge dog person. But that's a funny little random detail that doesn't come up in your medical records and in your history. So that's one of the things that you're going to want to include. Let's see. Okay. Did I miss something?
Prescreening with the agency. Yeah. No, you did good. And I was just going to say, to add to that, one of the reasons why, and I always thought this was weird until I worked for an agency, and then I understood why. The reason they ask you for what your favorite flower is and favorite dessert or favorite restaurant is a lot of these intended parents, they feel this sense of honor and desire to want to spoil you, to be quite frank. You are doing such a huge thing for them, and sometimes it feels as though they're leaving the control and realizing that you're taking and managing this process for them, and they're so grateful for you. So a lot of times they just want to say thank you. I can't tell you how many times my intended parents were like, you go get a massage, a prenatal massage, or here's a gift card to your favorite restaurant. You guys go and have a nice dinner, you and your husband. So they wanna treat you because they are so grateful for what you guys are doing, and it's a huge thing. So when you're going through this profile, there are going to be a lot of questions, and I encourage you to speak from your heart, be a little goofy if that's you, and so that they can see your personality and get to know you. I had little jokes in pretty much a lot of my things, but in a way that they could see and get to know that I was a cool girl that was excited. I had easy pregnancies, and I was so grateful for that, but that I wanted to help a family because I couldn't imagine my life without my girls. They're my entire world. So I was excited to get to know the parents, and I knew when I read their first profile that it was the right couple for me. Now you may read a profile and say, gosh, I think I like them, but I'm not sure. And that's okay. It's normal, and you're going to have a lot of emotions happening at that point. So what I would encourage you to do is the next step would be an actual physical match call, whether that be via Zoom. Because of COVID right now, it's probably not going to be in person, but maybe it will be. That match call is going to be the time for you guys to really get to know each other. The case manager is going to assign a case, the agency is going to assign a case manager, and the case manager is going to be that liaison talking to you guys all. So it'll be you, your partner, and the intended parents and the case manager. And she's really going to take the time to talk with you guys and get to know and have you guys answer why you're wanting to be a surrogate, why they need a surrogate, and what the expectations are. What do you want in the journey? If you have any expectations, maybe the parents really want you to eat organically. My first couple did, and it was neat because that was something that, I wanted to start to do, but I hadn't gotten around to it. And so they said, listen, we'll pay you to eat organic. So at no point any requests the parents have, they're going to take care of those requests. So if they want you to eat organically, then they're going to compensate you to eat organically. And it's just a fun way for them to feel like they're a piece and a part of this process. And if you're comfortable with that, great. If you're not, then it's not the right match, and that's okay. No intended parent is ever going to tell you that you have to do something. And I encourage you to make sure that if there are any special requests, like maybe you don't want to be induced and you rather have it become a natural delivery, whether you go into labor or your water breaks, and you don't want an epidural. I thought I didn't want an epidural, but I did end up having an epidural. But I didn't want anybody taking that from me. So I would encourage you to understand that this is the time to say these requests, these things that you have that you would like to have done during your journey, and add those to the profile. And more importantly, Sunshine is an English teacher. I don't know if she shared that, high school English teacher. So she's amazing with her words. She is happy to help any of you guys if you have questions with your letter. She had a great time writing her letter, and she can tell you a little bit about that. But if you need help with the questions on the profile, or you're stumped, or you don't know how to answer a question on a profile, take a picture of it and send it to me via text message, or simply call me and we'll walk through it and talk through it. Okay, that's what we're here for. That's why this company is here, is really to help you guys understand that you have somebody in your court through this entire process representing you so that your experience is a good one.
That's one of the things I forgot to talk about is writing the profile letter. I know some agencies require you to write a letter to your prospective intended parents, and they require the same from parents to write a letter to you so that you're not just kind of looking at their statistics, how old they are, where they work, you know, where they live, how long they've been together. People like stories and connect to and relate to stories. So telling people your story and who you are and about your family and what you like to do in a letter is really, really helpful for matching with intended parents. And you think about the amount of trust that they have to put into you, the more they can feel like they get to know you through your profile and through a letter, the better it will be for matching and for starting that process of building your relationship. So if the agency that you're connected with doesn't require you to write a letter, I would encourage you to offer up one anyway. And if you do have any trouble with it, or you want someone to read it or give you feedback, like, I love reading people's letters and giving them feedback and helping them, you know, kind of flesh it out more. My letter that I wrote to my intended parents is 3 pages long, tight, single space, and it's obnoxiously long. Yours doesn't have to be like that. It can be, you know, short. I know some people are like a quarter of a page. I think that's too little. I think a half a page would be a good minimum, but just writing those letters is really fun. So even if I don't get to speak to you and you only talk to Casey, if you want to send me your letter, I'd love to read it and help you fix it up if you want. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. So next up, the pre-screening with the agency, and then we have the agency pre-screening steps. So once you have been introduced, we found you the agency, you're so excited, we've introduced you, you've had the call, you've started all of the necessary paperwork. The paperwork part is no fun, but I promise you will get through it. And more importantly, you have us. If you're reviewing the consent forms and you have a question about one of the consent forms or the way something is written and you just need a little bit of clarification on what that means exactly, lean on us, please. That's what we're here for. We enjoy and we really have a lot of knowledge. I always tell my husband, I feel like I have a whole bunch of useless knowledge in the real world. But in IVF world, if I took a test, I'd probably pass with flying colors. So if I don't know the answer to something, I will find it out for you. I mean, we will reach out to the agencies and ask them exactly what that means if there is something of that needs clarifying. So speeding up the pre-screening process, did I skip that slide? Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Sorry, guys. So things that speed up the screening process. When I'm talking with you on my initial call, I'm going to ask you if you have what type of birth control you are on, if you have one at the moment. If you have an IUD or the depot shot or an arm implant, those are birth controls that will need to be removed. And the IVF doctor, for you to be matched, those things will hold up the process, especially if you're not having regular menstrual cycles. So if this is something you're seriously considering, you know that you're ready to do it, I always encourage you guys to go ahead and get that removed. If you haven't had a pap smear in the last year, you'll also want to get a pap smear done because the IVF clinic is going to need a normal pap smear and making sure that your birth control is a birth control pill, really, or no birth control. But if you do the no birth control route, I really encourage you to make sure you don't get pregnant, because I can't tell you how many times I've had my lovely ladies tell me they had their IUD removed and then an 𝗰𝘁 happened. A beautiful 𝗰𝘁, of course, but they weren't really anticipating it. So it is okay to stop the IUD or to remove it, the depot. I would just encourage you to then to get on a birth control for the meantime. And let's see here. And then the last thing that I always encourage you guys to do that will help speed up that process is your starting a prenatal vitamin. I can't tell you how many times a woman has gone in to do her medical screening and they're going to do blood work. They're going to look at your thyroid, vitamin D, vitamin C, folic acid, and make sure that your levels are where they need to be for a healthy pregnancy. If the levels are not where they need to be, then you're tentatively approved, but not fully approved. So what they'll tell you is, okay, well, we're tentatively approved, so let's have you start the vitamin D. the folic acid, and wait for your levels to get to where they need them to be before they can fully medically screen you and approve you, and then you starting the legal process. So if you're not on a prenatal vitamin yet, I really encourage you to start one. They're great anyways. I'm, not pregnant, and I still find myself wanting to take them because it's got everything that you need in there. So that's what's going to help us start and keep that process moving along, is those little pieces. Now, once you have all of your documents in, they've got all of your medical records, and they're on to the next steps of the matching process. The pre-screening process is going to consist of a few things. So we have starting the matching process, which would be sharing your profile with intended parents. And that process is very exciting. And what will happen is, just as much as this is their journey, this is your journey too. So they're going to fill out a profile just as lengthy as yours, asking lots of questions of what brings them to surrogacy. And when the time comes, your profile is going to be shared with the intended parents and vice versa. And so once the parents have looked at your profile, if they say yes, then it's your job. They'll share that profile with you, and you and your spouse or partner will review that profile to see if you guys like them and if you're interested in moving forward. If you are interested in moving forward, then we will start the medical screening process, and that's going to be based off of your menstrual cycle. So let's say it's day 1 of your menstrual cycle. A lot of IVF clinics want you to be seen for the medical screening between days 7 and 19, so 7 and 17 days from the first day of your cycle. It ranges. I've seen from IVF clinic to IVF clinic, but the medical screening doesn't hurt. It's really not too invasive at all. I would say it comes close to, I guess, a pap smear. Nobody enjoys the pap smears, but it's not a process that hurts. They're going to have, they call it a saline ultrasound. So there will be saline inserted into the uterus, and to verify that you have no lesions, polyps, that your lining is thick enough. And at that time, the doctor will see, is she qualified to move forward with surrogacy? And they'll be able to give you kind of a stamp of, yes, she looks great. And then they're going to have you complete your blood work panel. And that's why we encourage you to start the prenatal vitamins ahead of time. Once those levels are back and we have the results from both you and your spouse or partner will also need to have your blood work taken. And the reason for that is they want to make sure that the spouses have no sexual transmitted diseases that could track to you and or drug use. So the spouses are going to be, the partners will need to have those blood work done as well. A lot of times, if your partner can't be there for that medical screening appointment, that's okay. We understand the husband's work, the wife's work, so it's probably harder for both you guys to take that time off. They'll send home a lab slip so that you can send it to your husband or spouse and have them go and get their lab work done at a Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp. And the sooner that he gets that done, the sooner that you are medically cleared. So if he takes a week, then it's going to delay that process in getting medical cleared. So I always encourage, if we can, get those husbands on it, or if they can come and be for the medical screening, that's important as well. Once we have medical clearance, we're on to the legal contracts. There are going to be 2 legal attorneys, one attorney representing the intended parents and one attorney representing the surrogate, because it is a conflict of interest to have one attorney representing both parties. The parents take care of the costs associated with both. So at no point are you having to pay for travel, for the medical screening, or any of these steps. This is all going to be part of the agency managing the case in the trust account, but the attorneys will go through the legal contract with both you and the intended parents. A legal contract will be drawn up, and that will be based off of your benefit package. This is the time that we are going to be able to go through the benefit package and the legal contract, making sure that everything was in the benefit package is in the legal contract. And that takes about 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes a little longer. But once you have legal clearance, then you're going to go on to the best part of this, right? This is why we're here. We're just going to start your cycle calendar. So yay. Cycle calendar is the next step. So you're going to start your medication for the process of the embryo transfer to get your body ready for that. And then you're going to have your embryo transfer. And so we can get into that a little bit more. If you haven't already, we did a webinar a couple weeks ago, and Natalie, she is an IVF nurse and works at an IVF center. She's an experienced surrogate and a dear friend to both Sunshine and I. We had her on as a host with our last webinar, and she really went through all of the points of the cycle calendar, what to expect, how to do the shots, how to manage what are maybe some of the side effects from the hormones, such as PMS or grumpy or a little fatigue.
Hungry.
So if you'd like, let us know, and we can, yeah, tiredness. Let us know, because we will send you that replay. It's a great resource, and I encourage all of you guys who are interested in surrogacy and moving forward to watch it, because it's a great resource. The thing that I've been saying most often right now is we want to equip you with tools to put in your toolbox so that you're ready to go when you are going through this process of surrogacy. The more tools you have, the more knowledge you have, the better experience you're going to have, a journey that you don't have to really think about, and know that you have a ton of people on your side to make sure that this experience is a good one. So you'll have us, and we don't go anywhere. And then you'll have your agency, and the agencies we work with are so amazing. So I'm excited, no matter what agency we put you with, based off of what is going to be the best fit, you're going to have an amazing experience. So those are just a few things. So let's see here. So things that might slow the process down are, well, photos. If we want to, I say that lightly because we want good photos. We really want you to be able to send us some good photos so that we can add that to your profile. That's important. I always say a picture's worth a million words, right? Maybe that's not how you say it, but basically, was it a picture is worth 1,000 words, or 1,000? So there you go. Not a million.
What a million?
1,000, ladies.
I don't know.
But
it's a good picture.
really,
It's worth a million.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe not mine, but somebody else's. It's just important to have pictures. I always say you can read a profile and maybe be a little excited, but then if you see their profile, like Sanjay shared, and they have their dogs and they're so excited to be able to move forward with surrogacy, it's like a home run. You get to that place, you're like, this is the couple. They're so cute. Like, I want to help them have their family and grow their family. And this is not a little thing that you're doing for these parents. They've longed for this, and at this point, they're just so grateful for the opportunity to have this. So good photos. If you don't have any, I would encourage you to take some good photos. And what I mean by good photos is you guys smiling and all together, and maybe a couple actions photos of you guys at the park or the zoo.
Yeah, if you have pictures at the zoo or anywhere outdoors, that's always good. Even if you just step outside into your own backyard or on your front porch and take pictures in the sunlight, those pictures are always so good. With your smartphone. It doesn't have to be fancy.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see here. Other things that can slow us down is basically if you guys are at a process of like needing to collect a clearance letter, maybe you've had more than 2 C-sections, we typically will ask that you get a clearance letter for that. If there are any other complications, we will indicate at that point during that first call that I do with you that, hey, let's get a clearance letter. So let's reach out to your doctor, schedule a pap smear, and do a full physical, and request that letter from your doctor. It's important in some instances if you have any kind of concerns on your prenatal history, we want to make sure it's safe, and really that plays a part in it. So that will slow the process down. And if you're able to schedule that ASAP, then it will make that process go a little smoother. Let's see here. Making sure you've got a good support system, that's really important. These agencies want to see that you got a good support system, because if you're pregnant and get put on bed rest, who are those people in your life that are going to help you through those moments and making sure that it's a smooth process? For these intended parents, they are trusting somebody, and they really want to make sure that your network of people are going to be there for you if they are not able to be. Maybe they're in a different city or a town, you know, so those are things to consider, and it could slow the process down. And I think, yeah, just that next step would be talking about the compensation.
Hey, so I know at the point that you have invested so much time and energy into this, a lot of women don't feel comfortable talking about or asking about the compensation. When does that start? What does it look like? How much is it? Is it worth it? Like, really, this is kind of it's an extra part-time job almost, the amount of effort that you're putting in. So the compensation is a big deal. It is a significant amount of money, and it is typically for a first-time surrogate, the base minimum would be $40,000, and it goes up from there. And if you're an experienced surrogate, you usually ask for more in your second or third journey, which is not to scare you if you're thinking about surrogacy, but I don't know a single person who's ever just been surrogate one time. I can't, do you know anyone, Casey?
Yeah. No, yeah, everybody that I always say there's a lot of.
So I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into. If you do this once, you're going to have such a great experience, and you're going to want to do it again. And when you do it again, you get to ask for a lot more compensation the second time than you did as a inexperienced surrogate. But the way the compensation is distributed, even though you're doing all these pre-screening steps, you're doing a lot of paperwork, you are going to a medical screening, you are starting all these IVF medications, and you don't start getting that compensation, that $40,000 minimum, which is split out over the course of 10 payments typically. Some do 9, some agencies do 10. And it starts after heartbeat confirmation. So before that, if you're coming out of pocket for expenses like getting prenatal vitamins, going to appointments, or anything that you're doing, you're going to be reimbursed for childcare for lost wages. If you miss work to travel for medical screening, you're going to be reimbursed for the lost wages, and for the childcare, your travel expenses are going to be covered. And then also when you're meeting little milestones along the way, like starting your injectable medications, some agencies have a bonus on legal clearance. There's an embryo transfer fee. So there's other allowances that will come into play before you even become pregnant. So there's a little bit of compensation that comes into play beforehand. But that big portion of the compensation really starts once you have heartbeat confirmation of pregnancy. So one of the cool things about surrogacy is that the first 2 weeks and 5 days of the pregnancy happen in the lab. So when you have your embryo transfer, if it's successful on that day, you're already almost 3 weeks pregnant, even though you just had embryo implanted that day, which is kind of cool. So you get your heartbeat confirmation around 6 weeks. So you get heartbeat confirmation ultrasound at 6 weeks, and then the first of the month after that is when your compensation will kick in, and you'll start getting monthly payments. So on the first of the month after that 6-week ultrasound where they see that heartbeat, which, oh my gosh, this is the most exciting thing. Hopefully your intended parents can be there for it. If they can't be there in person because of COVID or because they're international or something, usually the doctors will let you FaceTime with them because it's their IVF doctor that you'll usually be going to for that ultrasound. So they'll be there on FaceTime, or they'll be there right next to you holding your hand, and it's so exciting to see that heartbeat and know that, like, you did it. Like, you achieved the thing that you set out to do, and there's a little life that's going to come into the world because of your efforts and what you're doing, and it's really exciting. And then first of the month, every month after that, you get used to getting those checks. A $4,000 check on the first of the month on top of whatever you're already bringing home, or your regular lifestyle expenses, is really helpful. And you shouldn't have to take anything out of pocket for that too. I know a lot of people wonder or assume and don't ask. Your medical bills, your health insurance, all of those things are paid for by the intended parents, and that does not come out of your compensation. So your compensation, you should be able to keep and put it away in a savings account, dump it all in the stock market, buy a boat, whatever it is that you want to do, you keep all of that for the gift that you're giving and what you're doing. You're not spending any of that on any pregnancy-related expenses. Even maternity clothing, you'll receive a maternity clothing allowance. So you don't have to buy maternity clothes out of pocket or out of your compensation. All those things are thought of and taken care of for you, which is really nice. Because I think in my own pregnancy, I wore the same 2 maternity shirts and like 2 pairs of sweatpants like every day, which, you know, is fine. You can do that too if you want to. You don't have to spend your maternity clothing allowance on maternity clothing, but it's there if you want to. Okay, so Alexa's asking if all of your appointments are solo or if the IVF doctors are more lenient. Doctors are tough right now. They mostly just want you to go to appointments alone. I haven't been able to bring anyone with me.
Only because of COVID.
I happen to have a really good relationship with an IVF doctor that I used to work for and do marketing for. So my intended mother was able to come for my heartbeat confirmation, but it was like, he would not have done that for anyone else. So I think you're gonna have to be alone for most of those appointments. They don't even want anyone in the waiting room. The waiting rooms are empty. I think most of the doctors even like have taken chairs out of the waiting room. There's not, but if you're just getting started in the screening process now, I think by the time you get pregnant and you start this process, what do you think, Casey? You think things might be close to back to normal?
Yeah, I feel like it's starting to get a little bit more normal now that the vaccine's out. And I mean, I hope that this year brings more, you know, of the normalness. So I guess we'll all see. It's kind of in a holding pattern, but I do hear a mix, mixed responses from some of the women that I've talked with, that they were able to have one person with them and then others saying no. But I'm hopeful that this kind of will turn around once we get to that place. So,
and they let you FaceTime. They always
Absolutely.
do. So you can have somebody in your pocket.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And they will send you home with the CD and from the ultrasound, and that's really neat too, so that you can give that to the parents and they can hold on to that and treasure that as well. So awesome. Okay, so timeline for the screening, like what are we looking at as far as I want to be pregnant tomorrow? Obviously, if you haven't already kind of gathered, this process takes time. It's not overnight, and it shouldn't be. If you're with an agency, I've told women, I've screened women who said, yeah, my first experience wasn't great and the agency didn't take care of me, and I felt like I didn't have the support, and they moved through the process really fast and I didn't get a choice in who I was matched with. Those are all very much red flags. That's not the way this process should be. It isn't overnight, and it is so serious because there are a lot of steps that are important that need to be taken. So once you've done your call with me, that's usually one day. Sometimes you guys want to talk a couple times, and that is fine. Like this process isn't, there should be no pressure. You guys need to be ready, and it needs to be the right time for you and your family. So I always encourage you to, and I will talk through this with you, and make sure that timing is right. If you're ready to go now, awesome, and we can start that. But if you need a few months, or if you're breastfeeding, for instance, those will be things that you could potentially get the process started if you know that you're going to stop breastfeeding in a couple months, but you will fully need to be weaned. I don't know if we talked about that. I feel like we might not have. But if you're breastfeeding, you will want to make sure that you're fully weaned before you can have a potential match happen. So that will be something to take into consideration. And I can discuss that a little bit further with you during our call. But once you've had that call with me, then the next step is going to be introducing you to the agency. Yay. That first initial call and then meeting the agency, that's typically between 1 to 5 days. So they are going to introduce themselves. They're going to ask you what your availability is, and then you guys are going to schedule a time to talk over the phone and get to know each other. We're going to equip you, right, with your toolbox full of questions to ask the agency so that you can kind of walk in there and have a handful of things that you want to know about the agency. And we'll allow you the opportunity to know that you're with an agency that's representing you correctly and that your experience is going to be good. So the next step is requesting those darn medical records, and that typically can take between 2 to 4 weeks. Sometimes it's really fast. I say that I'm kind of a wizard helping collect medical records. I've done it for many years now. So if you need my help and if you call me and you say, listen, the agency's trying to collect my records, but it feels like it's taking a little bit longer than I was hoping, call me, let's talk about it, and I will give you some helpful tips. Sunshine's touched on this earlier, but I can't stress to you how beneficial it is to have you as the person requesting those records to call them and say, hey, so-and-so sent a medical release form. Did you guys get it? What is your ETA? You as the person with the records, they will typically speed up the process, I guess, is what I've seen in my experience. So those are things that we can call and bug them weekly. I've done that. And those are things I can help you guys with as well. After we've collected all your medical records, the agency is going to have those reviewed by an intake person that specializes in reviewing medical records. And once they've gotten the green light, then they're going to start this pre-screening process. And that would consist of the background, the psychological screening. They sound scary. I promise you they're not. It's really just to understand and make sure that timing is right and that you're qualified. That takes 1 to 2 weeks. And because of COVID, the background, they'll just simply have you fill out a document and run that background. So there really isn't too much that you need to do for that. But the psychological screening, it used to be in person. Now it's because of COVID, it's all via Zoom. So more of a convenient factor. A lot of times you had to drive to that location where the psychological screener resided, whether it be in LA and you were in San Diego. Now it's a little more convenient because everything is via Zoom. So you and your partner, if you have a spouse or partner, will be on that call. It's really easy, I promise. And the people that do it are great. They've been doing this a long time. So once you have those results back, then they will start the matching process. And I think that's what we all get excited about, is finding that right match. That could be a week. It could be a couple of days, because we have so many intended parents that are waiting and have been waiting anywhere from 6 months to a year before they're matched with the surrogate. And I can't stress enough that these intended parents are going to be so excited to have the opportunity to even see your profile because they've been waiting for so long. So that process is an exciting one. That's typically 3 to 4 weeks on average before you have your first profile and the match. And then you're on to medical screening, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Legal clearance is another 3 to 4 weeks on average. And then starting the cycle calendar, the medications, you're starting that. And before the embryo transfer, it's between 3 to 4 weeks. And then embryo transfer, pregnancy, confirmation is another 4 to 5 weeks. So typically, on average, if everything goes right and as planned, it's about 4.5 to 5 months from meeting and talking with me until you are pregnant and on to the next steps of this amazing journey that we are embarking on with surrogacy. And as a side note, I was joking with someone the other day. I would love to be a surrogate probably 4 more times. I've done 2 journeys, but my husband has retired me. So yes, I know a lot of women who do surrogacy, and it is an amazing feeling when you see those intended parents hold their baby for the first time, doing skin to skin, seeing the joy and the just appreciation. It's something that is a remarkable feeling, and you can't touch it. So I did do a second journey, and if my husband would allow me, I probably would have done it a couple more times.
Yeah, if I didn't have to have a third C-section, I know I'd be tempted to go and do it again. But I'm having a third C-section, so that's going to stop me, which is good, because I need to not be pregnant for the rest of my life. But seriously, the day that the twins were born for my first surrogacy journey, that was probably the highlight of my life, like more so than my own kids being born. That's crazy, huh? But I don't know. It's just, that's a high I'll be chasing for the rest of my life. I think that it was just such a good day. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So that's it. Sorry we kept you guys for so long because we talked too much. If you didn't make it or stay for the whole thing, I don't blame you. But we're going to send you the replay, so it'll be helpful for you to know what to anticipate what's coming next. We have a couple more webinars coming up that I'm really excited about, that Casey and I will shut up for and let somebody else do most of the talking. We have on you want to talk about Ellen? I know you love Ellen.
Yeah. So Ellen, you guys, please, I mean, if you are going to miss one, today's was probably one you should have missed, but this next one coming up is Ellen. And she is a psychological screener. She has been in the industry for 35 years and 25 years in the surrogacy industry. So she was she did my psychological screening for my first journey and my second journey. She was my support person for both of my journeys, and she is quite literally amazing. I mean, there's not really anything else I can say. She is so great. She's full of knowledge, and if you can make it, she's going to go through what the psychological screening is, what questions are asked, what to anticipate, things that you don't even think to think about. She's going to bring up, and it's just really a great time to have that conversation. So I encourage you to be a part of that one. It's going to be next month, the 4th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's going to be a great webinar. So we're excited to have her as our guest host for that one.
Yeah, so that'll be on March 4th. And then we have on March 17th, which I realize is St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully you guys don't have any plans. Who has plans anymore? On that day, we will have assisted reproductive attorney, Greg Field, who has been the attorney that walked me through my contract for my last 2 surrogacy journeys. For my first time, I was very naive and inexperienced, and I didn't have any guidance, and I had the worst attorney ever that spent like 20 minutes on the phone and asked me if I had any questions, and I didn't even know what questions to ask, and he was like, okay, sign here, and that was it. And so I ended up agreeing to some things in my contract that I wasn't excited about, and I wished that I hadn't agreed to. So fortunately, I love my intended parent so much it didn't matter, but we want you to have a good attorney that's going to walk you through and make sure that you guys have all of your bases covered for things like lost wages, when those things kick in, you know, there's so much stuff that goes into it, travel restrictions, you know, all these things that you want to make sure are covered. So Greg is amazing. He and his wife, Emily, are intended parents through surrogacy. So they had their little girl from a surrogate, and they have so much respect for the process and for women who have been surrogates and will be surrogates, and they know like all the things to look out for. And so Greg's been so phenomenal. I was so happy to be able to use him again for this second time, and he's as great and spent as much time with me the first time as he did the second time, and doesn't let me cut corners and make sure that we read and understand everything. So he's so great. Yes, you need an attorney. You have to have an attorney. You must.
You don't pay for it. The agency takes care of it.
Yeah, that will be arranged.
But
you do get to have an attorney that's on your side, that's in your corner and reviewing that contract with you. So Greg is going to join us on St. Patrick's Day for Crystal's first birthday for a little one. We'll send you the replay, and that'll be great. And then I think he's going to offer to have like a free 15-minute phone call with anyone who's interested in talking about the legal process for surrogacy, which is amazing to be able to talk to somebody about that in advance. So feel free to take him up on that, and we'll get you more info. I'll send you guys the invite for that. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the comments now. And then I know we've already kept you for over an hour, so we'll let you go if nobody has any more questions. Thank you so much, Brittany. You make me feel so good about myself. You're so nice. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, guys. This was awesome, and we're so excited for you guys and being able to make this happen and find you guys a great agency. So thank you for listening and learning, and we don't go anywhere. So if you have any questions, you find yourself with further questions, you have our information, you give us a call, you send us a text message, and we're happy to go through all of those with you.
Yep, anytime.
Right on, right on. Well, thank you, ladies. Doesn't look like we have any questions. And so I guess we'll say goodbye, and we look forward to connecting with you.
Yeah. If you haven't already scheduled a call, I know Casey's probably texted you, or I have, feel free. There's a link to our calendar that you can go in and schedule a call, and we'll get through that initial process and get you started if you haven't already done that. But for those of you who are off to the races and the next steps of your journey, we're so excited for you. Congratulations, and you're doing an amazing thing. You're a miracle worker. Thank you, Brianna. Oh, I have 10 weeks to go. You're welcome. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.